Here's what you're going to learn by watching this video: how a single repeated message cuts through the political noise. You need this if you want to sell a product, grow a company, fund a nonprofit, get elected. You need to understand this principle. How We Are You created an unstoppable movement. We're going to look at the power of empathy, and you're going to learn that and be able to apply it to your business. Hey everybody, my name is Donald Miller. Welcome to StoryBrand Soundbites, where I talk about how soundbites were effectively used to create a campaign, sell products, do something big. If you have a campaign and you need help, go to StoryBrand.com. We would love to help you. Today's episode is all about how Mamdani used soundbites to win over New York City. I think the whole world was pretty surprised that this young guy was able to get elected mayor of New York. He's 33 years old. He's never run a business. But he's very, very compassionate. He understands the issues that are facing New Yorkers, and he got a bunch of people to vote for him. I will argue this in this video, that people aren't either moving to the left or to the right. That's what the pundits will tell you. People move to the left over in New York City. They're moving to the right. That's not the case. My position is this: they move toward clarity. Whoever has the clearest sound bites, whoever has the clearest philosophy, whoever has the clearest plan and can communicate that in such a way that everybody can understand, a form I call zero cognitive load, that is, don't make anybody think. If you can do that, people are going to move toward you. So people don't move to the left or the right. They move toward clarity. In fact, you often hear, they couldn't decide between Trump and Bernie Sanders. Why? Those are the two clearest candidates usually in the race. People will always move toward the clearest message, and that's what matters most. So we're going to actually look at Mamdani. I want to talk about Mayor Mamdani from a messaging perspective. How did a 33-year-old Democratic socialist go from polling in single digits to becoming New York City's youngest mayor in over a century? I'm surprised he's not the youngest mayor ever. By the end, here's what you're going to learn by watching this video: how a single repeated message cuts through the political noise. You need this if you want to sell a product, grow a company, fund a nonprofit, get elected. You need to understand this principle. Why optimism outperformed attack ads and cynicism. It doesn't always do it. That's not my point. My point is not that positive defeats negative. That is not my point. My point will always be clarity beats confusion. However, optimism did beat cynicism this time. We're going to take a look at why and how they did that. How We Are You created an unstoppable movement. We're going to look at the power of empathy, and you're going to learn that and be able to apply it to your business, your political campaign, your leadership, whatever it is that you're trying to do. Here's the crisis in New York City. This is what was happening in culture when Mamdani won the mayoral race. The affordability crisis. By the way, affordability wasn't a word. It wasn't a buzzword. Mamdani made it that. Very, very smart of him. But it was true. $4,500 a month for rent in Manhattan. That's crazy. 3 million New Yorkers spending 30% of their money on housing. 29% rent increases since pre-pandemic. 350,000 people experiencing homelessness. This is a freaking crisis. Working people were being squeezed out. A household need was $140,000 a year. And this is actually a shockingly low number for me. I thought this would be like $185,000 to afford average rent. Average New York City's wage was well under that, nearly $20,000 under that. Real wages down by 0.4%, while rents went up and inflation went up. Child care costs $25,000 to $26,000 per year. Personal bankruptcies up 14% in 1 year. Young people leaving, families priced out, workers commuting 2+ hours each way. People would say, I used to love New York, but now it's just where I live. This is a woman Mamdani met on the street. At City Hall, mired in scandal, Mayor Eric Adams was indicted. He's in big trouble. Multiple top officials resign amid investigations. Andrew Cuomo, forced to resign as governor over harassment scandal, announces he's going to come back. Voters feel betrayed, cynical, and abandoned by Democratic leadership. The establishment was asking voters to trust them again. Voters were not buying it. They are over it. So the Democratic Party, by the way, also in an identity crisis. This is all like the challenge that Mamdani was facing. What voters were saying was Democrats seem weak. The party's response: finger pointing, blame Biden, blame Harris, blame podcasts, too woke versus not progressive enough. No clear path forward. Into this chaos stepped a 33-year-old state assemblyman from Queens. And I'm telling you, into this chaos, this kid has no shot. But he pulled it off, and he pulled it off with messaging. Here comes the leader, Zoran Mamdani. His messaging philosophy was this: One message repeated relentlessly, same campaign from launch to victory. I'm telling you, I have gone into the offices of presidential candidates who were dying on the vine, and I told them one message repeated over and over. Don, that's just not the way reality works. Well, let me tell you how reality works. You're not getting elected president. That's how reality works, because people are not sitting down, pouring a scotch, figuring out who they're going to vote for. They hear one soundbite, it rattles around in their ear, in their brain, and then they say, you know what, I like that guy, I agree with that guy. And then their gut, their identity begins to associate with that person, and then they start defending their identity. If you come to them with a book of knowledge and wisdom and policy ideas, it's never going to get into their brain. You do that later. You do that when you get the job, not in order to get the job. And if you don't understand that, you're not going to get elected. Hope beats cynicism. Optimism outperforms attack ads. That is not always true. It is true in this case. Speak without condescension. Talk with people, not at them. That is massive. That is massive. Every political candidate we want to believe is us, is like us, understands us, cannot be better than us or in an ivory tower. Massive point there for leadership. Make voters the hero. This is your city. This power is yours. The campaign is not about me. The campaign is about the voter. Two reasons. You're selling a product when you're running for office. Needs to be a good product, needs to improve your customer's life. And this is a mistake that so many leaders make. They get up and say, well, let me explain who I am. Let me introduce myself. Here's who I am. You need to know me. They don't need to know you at all. They don't need to know anything about you. They need to know your offer and that your offer benefits them. Mamdani understood that. Doesn't talk about himself, talks about the voter. The strategy, one message, 1 year, one movement. By the way, he's going to get away from this. He better watch this video. All right, the core narrative. Life doesn't have to be this hard. New York can be more affordable, and its government's job is to deliver that. I don't believe it necessarily it's government's job to deliver that. I believe it's government's job to stimulate that. You see what I'm saying? Your job is to sort of keep the garden, not be the garden. All right, radical consistency. This is the main point I want you to understand as a leader. Watch this. October 2024, campaign launch, a city we can afford. Zero cognitive load. I do not have to think in order to understand the phrase, a city we can afford. I don't have to think. Nothing. That sounds good to me. People are not pouring a glass of scotch, studying your policies. They're just listening to your sound bites. And because he opened with it, starts to get a little traction. Does he change it? No. May 2025, first major rally. A city we can afford, he's saying the same thing. Why can't people do this? I'll tell you why. They get tired of it. Well, we already said that. They've already heard it. No, they haven't heard it because they're not paying attention to you. So keep saying it until you're blue in the face and when you're tired of saying it, say it as though you just came up with it. 5 years later, say it as though you just came up with it. Case in point, make America great again. Got Trump elected. Keep America great, which, by the way, America wasn't great, so that didn't resonate, but he changed it. Lost the election. Comes back to make America great again. Wins the election. Do not change your message. Keep it the same once it's working. June 2025, primary victory, a city we can afford. And then, watch this, he changes it. A mandate for a city we can afford. I don't know why he wanted to add 3 words, but he did. By the way, he was already mayor at that point. All right, message consistency. Let me give you an overview of the StoryBrand framework and the sound bites that you need and the overall philosophy that you need to think about and come from when you're creating a campaign. The customer is the hero. The voter is the hero. You need to address a serious problem that the voter has that they feel and understand. That is affordability. You need to position yourself as the guide, not the hero. The guide is Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi. They're here to help the hero win. That guy needs to be empathetic. Empathetic. They need to understand the pain of the hero. That's the dominant job if you want to be positioned as the guide. Then give them a plan. 2, 3 ideas that you're going to implement if you're elected. Are you going to implement, install 3 ideas? No, you're going to implement, install 750 ideas. Don't talk about those. Talk about the 3 that relate to the voter the most, and then challenge them to take action. If you want to live in an affordable city, voting for me is the right decision. Make it that clear. If you want to solve this problem, I am the solution. Vote for me. Then you need sound bites that say, this is what the world will look like, a wonderful, affordable city that you get to stay in and love. And if you don't vote for me, this corrupt government that's already been indicted is going to come back and they're going to keep stealing money from you, and your affordability is going to go out the window, your rent's going to go up, your wages are going to go down. These are the 7 sound bites. What does the hero want? What's the hero's problem? How am I empathetic toward the hero's problem? What's my 3-step plan? If you want change, vote for me. What's going to happen if you do? What's going to happen if you don't? Those are the 7 sound bites. Now, the reason these 7 sound bites work is they actually work to create a marketing funnel or a StoryBrand sales funnel campaign, because it goes through 3 phases. It piques people's curiosity, then it enlightens them, so you need curiosity sound bites, then you need enlightenment collateral. Once they're curious, only then will they actually go to your website, go to your rally, start reading about you a little bit, and then and only then will they vote for you if you give them clear incentives to vote for you. For example, if you want to live in an affordable city and you want to make more money and pay less rent, I'm your guy, that's what I'm going to fight for. That's a 3-phase campaign that you take those 7 sound bites and you drop them into this campaign. You need collateral in each one. You need elevator pitches, landing pages, white papers, case studies. You need text messages. You need nurture email campaigns. You need newsletters. You need YouTube videos. You need all the way around. You need to create collateral that disseminates these ideas. Your campaign, if you're selling a product, your brand, your company needs to look like a house. You need front steps, front porch, and a front door. Most campaigns, when I go visit a politician, or I've worked on immigration reform, I've worked on criminal justice reform, some of these issues, when I go in, most of those campaigns look like this. The door is boarded up, the house is unwelcoming. That is what the Democratic Party currently looks for, and now everybody's following Mamdani, and it's starting to look a little more like this. Front steps, curiosity sound bites, going to the front porch, and then a clear front door. What are the 5 sound bites that Mayor Mamdani used to get elected? Let's actually look at those sound bites. Step 1 is the problem sound bite. Remember, everything starts with a problem. Life doesn't have to be this hard. That was his sound bite. Extremely effective. Here's why it worked. Simple human language, not affordability crisis, but life is hard. You see the difference? Affordability crisis, high cognitive load. Life is hard, low cognitive load messages are going to win. Validates what everyone feels, but politicians rarely say out loud. Contains implicit promise. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. Opens a story loop. We have an affordability crisis. Does not necessarily open a story loop. It doesn't have to be this way. Posits the question, how are you going to change it? So it opens a story loop that only gets closed if I elect you. Compare. Harris, 2024, couldn't clearly articulate why people struggle. Mamdani said it in 7 words. It's very hard to sort of identify with the common man and make people who are paying too much for rent feel like you understand them or care about them. He was able to do this. Why fight for you? Because we are you. This is the empathy statement, right? Problem statement is affordability. Empathy statement is, I am you. I understand you. I used to sort of navigate and mitigate and work for people who were in foreclosure. I am you. Why did it work? Authentic identity. Mamdani lived in rent-stabilized housing in Queens. He celebrated diverse coalition. He understood those voters. Flipped the elite outsider attack. His life story was proof of shared struggle. His Muslim, immigrant, working class identity wasn't a liability. Wasn't a liability because he made sure it wasn't a liability. It was the empathy engine. People believe what you tell them to believe. Do you remember a guy named Barack Hussein Obama got elected president with the middle name Hussein? What, he turned his whole story of never having been a politician, never having run a company, never having been rich, grown up in a single home, he turned it into empathy. And if you're a type D, Enneagram 8 driven leader, you probably lack empathy. And you probably don't ever want to come off as weak. There is a way to express your past weakness so that it has been converted and leveraged into understanding and make it a strength. A city we can afford is the answer soundbite. We're going to spell out peace here because it's the peace soundbites that you need to run a campaign. A city we can afford. That's what we're heading for. That's my answer to this challenge. Here's why it worked. 5 words that define the entire campaign. 0 cognitive load, by the way. Appeared on every sign, every ad, every rally backdrop. Repeat the offer, 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 repeat the offer in simple 0 cognitive loads. Why? Because it won't go down the voter's throat. They will nibble at it, but only if you actually just attack everything with the same words over and over. This is an effective campaign. Made affordability the only test. You can only offer one thing in a campaign. As a company, you can only offer one thing. You may have 50 products that help you get the one thing, but you can really only offer one thing, and it needs to be repeated. Stop changing your billboards. Find that slogan, that tagline, that offer, communicated in a few words, 0 cognitive load, and repeat it forever. 100,000 volunteers knocked 3 million doors with one message. That is StoryBrand clarity in a nutshell. There's the change soundbite. Freeze the rent, free buses, universal childcare. I would actually say this is not necessarily a good change soundbite. This is more of your plan. Remember I said pick 3 things that you're going to issue as the plan? So I would make this the plan soundbite. But this is how we are going to change the world. I'll allow it, but I don't love it. Specific, tangible, repeatable. Voters chanted them at rallies. Chanted the policy position at rallies? Wow. That is seriously effective messaging. Victory speech, call and response. We're going to freeze the rent, right? Now, I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I have a bunch of friends who are songwriters. They will tell you, it's a great thing to do in a song to do a call and response, something that you sing and the audience chants it back or chants back the next line is one of the things that you put in the recipe for a hit song. Same with messaging. And by the way, country music and all music is just messaging. Not a 50-page policy paper, 3 things everyone can remember. If your supporters can't repeat your platform from memory, well, you do have a platform. They just don't know what it is. All right, end result, peace, problem, empathy, answer, change, end result. When the city you love finally loves you back, that's the end result that I am going to give you if I'm elected mayor. I mean, arguably the most effective campaign messaging strategy and discipline that I've seen since Make America Great Again, which was stolen from Ronald Reagan. Arguably the best. I don't know if it's better, because that one was actually even more simple, but in ways it was better. Affordability is more clear than Make America Great Again because it tells me exactly what that's going to do for me, where Make America Great Again is a little bit too elusive. I would actually weirdly say Make America Great Again is not 0 cognitive load. It's probably around 20. But, I mean, who's he up against, right? Biden? That's not going to work. So, why it worked. Emotional, not transactional. Not lower costs, but mutual love. Again, stay away from high cognitive load messaging. Frames the city as the relationship worth fighting for. By the way, it's a survival thing. If this city loves me and is for me, it's going to help me survive. It's going to help me live. People will always vote for survival. Echoed the woman on the bus. I used to love New York. Gives voters something to feel, not just something to think. By the way, I used to love New York, and the city that finally loves you back is also selling nostalgia. Did the city ever love you? No, it's never loved you. But I can tell you the city used to love you, and you think the past is better than the present because you're worried about the future. So you always think the past is better than the present. That's a psychological phenomenon. And so if you sell the past, you end up selling nostalgia. He tapped into that a little bit. Hope over cynicism, love over fear. This is the end result voters were waiting for. All right, what happened? Created a very unlikely coalition. Democratic Socialists, union members, immigrant families, working class moderates, Muslim communities, longtime New Yorkers, young first-time voters, Jewish progressive, even some Trump voters. Why? Because Trump voters love clarity, and Mamdani was clear. Bottom line, they will move toward clarity. All right, what are the results? The results, historic turnout, 2 million plus voters cast ballots, 5 times more early votes than in 2021, 50.4% was his vote share. And you say, well, that's not very good. Listen, he should have been in the 20s. A 33-year-old assemblyman who's never worked in any sort of job where he had to actually make money or sell something, always working on government payroll. Mamdani 50.4 is quite an accomplishment. Victory margin, 10-point victory margin over Cuomo. Way to go. New York City's youngest mayor in over 125 years, first Muslim, first South Asian. Really, David versus Goliath. The Cuomo campaign, $60 million in spending, political dynasty name, attack ads with jihada, fear-based messaging, experience. They had way more experience, had the endorsement of Donald Trump. Mamdani, grassroots funding, unknown assemblyman, consistent positive message. That is what won him this race. Hope-based messaging. Hope-based messaging was part of it. You don't always need that. Affordability pitch. That's the key word. 104,000 volunteers, and look who won the race. I think you know how that works. Why Mamdani won? Clarity, trust, created movement, and that ultimately led to victory. One message repeated everywhere. He built trust. Trust turned strangers into volunteers. Volunteers spread the message to millions. Millions voted for the only candidate who spoke their language and understood them. Hope over tyranny, hope over big money and small ideas, hope over despair. Here's the lessons. 1, clarity beats complexity. Again, Harris couldn't make it happen. Mamdani could. If you confuse, you lose is our principle. One message repeated relentlessly is worth more than 100 policy papers. Your volunteers should be able to explain your value proposition in a single breath. Empathy. Lesson number 2, leaders. Empathy. Mamdani didn't just say, I understand you. He proved it. Lived in rent-stabilized housing, worked as foreclosure prevention counselors, shared specific stories of real New Yorkers. He was them. He did not live in an ivory tower. The StoryBrand principle, we fight for you because we are you, only works if it's true. Your empathy must be demonstrated through lived experience, specific stories, and real stakes, not focus group talking points. I talked to a guy who was running for president. He's the CEO of a billion-dollar corporation. Took over that corporation from his father, wrote a book about what he would do if he ran for president. And I read the book and immediately thought he'll never be elected. Really good, decent policy ideas, but ivory tower, man, he hadn't lived a single day of his life when he wasn't worth millions and millions of dollars. And that doesn't mean you can't be empathetic. You can be incredibly empathetic. Usually, though, the person who grew up in a very wealthy household is empathetic because something tragic happened in their background. They made a big mistake, something that gave them that empathy and that compassion that creates that magic combination of I've seen the wealthy and I've seen the poor. I've experienced luxury and I've experienced heartbreak and heartache, and now I have the empathy. So some of you leaders who've experienced something very, very difficult in your background, some of you think it actually hurts you. You need to leverage that and turn it into empathy, and it benefits you, and real empathy. All right, hope creates movements. It is true. The darker the dark, the brighter the bright. Just talked to some kids at Belmont University yesterday. One of them came up to me wearing a suit and tie in the business school. You could tell his parents probably made him do that. But Don, I don't like being negative. I don't like being negative. I don't like negative messaging. Is there a way around it? No, there's not a way around it. Here's why. The more negative the messaging, the more negative the opposition is, the darker the room, the brighter the light. So if you spend 80% of your time saying, we're in a housing crisis, we can't afford things, you can't hardly afford to pay rent, you can't afford childcare, you can't afford to have a career because you're spending all your money on childcare, you can't, or you're not able to afford it at all. You can't. I want to fix that. The I want to fix that is the candle in the darkness. And many of you, you're just like 1,000 candles in the room. No, create the darkness so you can light the candle and stand out. So very, very important. StoryBrand principle, paint the vision of a better future, not just escape from a painful present. Fear gets attention, and fear sets the stage and darkens the room so the candle gets bright. Hope gets action. Candle's important. Your end result should make people excited to join, not just relieved to survive. All right, if you need a campaign, go to StoryBrand.com. There's a bunch of ways that we can help you. I'd love to help you at StoryBrand.com. You can learn there how to hire me personally. You can learn there how to hire one of our StoryBrand certified guides. We can actually match you with a guide. Go to StoryBrand.com and we will help you out. My point is this: confusion won't grow your brand. A soundbite strategy that informs a robust marketing and messaging campaign will grow your brand. Let us help you. Go to StoryBrand.com. Until next week, this has been StoryBrand Soundbite. I'm Don Miller. Grateful. Go change the world.